Hillary Clinton, you've had relations with that are not
relations.
I mean, when you ran for the presidency in 2020, she called you a Russian asset. Why did she not like you back then? You were a Democrat.
There are a few reasons, yes. There are a few reasons. Number one, Hillary Clinton, as I said then, is the queen of warmongers.
Right.
So from a fundamental foreign policy view, what she was advocating for the American foreign policy to be versus what I was advocating for could not have been more different and diametrically opposed.
Libya, for instance, when she was chortling about the brutal death of Gaddafi.
Which is just every time I see that video of her in that interview, really, as you said, we saw and
he died.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He died.
And then she laughs.
Laughing about it.
Yeah.
It's
psychopathic.
It's to think about someone like her assuming the role of the president and commander-in-chief and sitting in the Oval Office is actually quite terrifying when we look at the safety and security of the American people. And I just think about the courageous men and women I've had the privilege of serving alongside in the military, and whose lives are the ones who are put on the line when you have people like her and those who share her views in positions of power to make decisions about war and peace and life and death. So, substantively, my views are diametrically opposed to hers on foreign policy and many other issues. But also back, it was because of that as then I was a vice chair of the Democratic National Committee back in 2016. And, I had started to see from the inside so much of what was wrong within the National Democratic Party, but made a decision at that time where the scales were being tilted heavily for Hillary Clinton by then DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but also seeing how the mainstream media was complicit in this, because even as they touted Hillary Clinton as, and you remember, the most qualified candidate ever to run for president in our nation's history. That's a high bar.
Yes.
That's a very high bar. And yet, when you look at her actual record, they would list off all of these titles, these fancy titles that she's carried, but none of them actually looked at her record of what her policies were as a U.S. Senator, what her votes were, what her actions were around foreign policy that would qualify her to be the most qualified person ever to be commander-in-chief. They never got into any kind of detail or below the surface on her record as Secretary of State either. The kinds of things, Libya is one example. There are many others that you could point to of where her decisions, her advice, her engagements, ultimately, when it comes right down to it, made our country less safe. And so I resigned as vice chair of the DNC at the time and endorsed Bernie Sanders specifically because they had very, very different views on foreign policy. And it would give me the opportunity and the platform to have a megaphone in order to expose her record because the mainstream media refused to do it. So I have a feeling that in 2020, Hillary Clinton choosing to lob these baseless and slanderous accusations against me.
It's her thing. Russian asset.
It's her thing. And she may have remembered me telling the truth about who she really is and her true record for the years leading up to that point.
You hurt her feelings. And then she got her revenge. Fast forward to you find yourself on the Quiet Skies surveillance program. And I, in fact, accidentally met a whistleblower who told you about that. And she had found out that an ally of Hillary Clinton from way back, from her Whitewater days, had seen you on television, on Fox News, on Laura Ingram's show, talking about Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, and decided to put you on the list and make your life a kind of a misery. I think you were stopped or delayed 24 times and given extreme searches as if you were a domestic terrorist.
Yeah. Yes. She found a way to exact her revenge.
So you believe that was Hillary directing that?
I hadn't heard that account before. I was certain, however, that it was politically motivated.
Yeah.
There was no other explanation for it other than that. When I spoke to TSA agents in multiple airports who were just doing their jobs, but who, as they went through this extreme and in-depth search of me, and oh, by the way, my husband was also placed on this domestic terror watch list. They were like, why are we doing this with you? You are still serving as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. You're a former member of Congress. This makes zero sense whatsoever. And hearing that from the folks who are out there on the line every single day further affirmed what I believe to be true, that this could only be real if it were politically motivated. To not only go through these extreme, sometimes 30-minute long, 40-minute long searches before boarding any flight.
Would they go through your luggage?
Every single piece, the lining of my luggage after everything was removed, feeling down my every jacket that I had feeling down the seams of every single inch of my clothing. Again, these guys were doing what they were told to do. I wouldn't want them to be fired for, not doing their job. But when you look at the consequences, again, of this politicization of intelligence, this is another example. And who does it hurt? Well, these folks, these TSA personnel, the air marshals who were told they had to surveil me and follow me and look at how many times did I pick up my phone while I'm in flight? Did I talk to any other people? Did I have any interesting conversations? Was there any movement that I made that seemed a little out of the ordinary? How many times do you get up and go and use the bathroom? I mean, the surveillance during...
Did you know they were following you?
I had kind of noticed a couple of times.
Right.
But I didn't know until later the extent of how many air marshals they required to watch me and who had to type up reports.
To get up on a plane with you and travel with you?
From drop off to move through the airport, to get on the plane, to landing at my destination and out to the curb. The real chilling effect here. And obviously I may be one of the better known people who's been on this list. But unfortunately, there are many Americans who have been targeted either for political reasons or for no reason at all, experiencing what is essentially illegal and unconstitutional surveillance
it must
by the government.
Feel very violating.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. And this is the I think the real implication here is people will see me on TV criticizing Hillary Clinton's foreign policies, criticizing Kamala Harris's foreign policies, talking about how dangerous either one of them would be as president and commander in chief, and then very publicly seeing how the government and the intelligence is being weaponized against me. It can have a very chilling effect on people to say, oh my gosh, like this is happening to somebody who's in the military and who served as a member of Congress, who ran for president, and she's speaking out and speaking the truth and standing up against these very powerful people. What would happen to, everyday American who maybe goes to a Board of Education meeting and stands up for the right of their daughter to go to school and compete in sports without being afraid for her safety and her well-being, because others are saying, well, no, boys who say that they're girls can go in your bathroom and can run against you on the track field. What happens to that mom or to that dad who stands up and speaks the truth and then is labeled a domestic violent extremist by the Biden administration. So you can see again the chilling effect that this would have and the menacing effect that it has really on sending a message: you better comply or else. You better remain silent or else, because look at what we did to Tulsi Gabbard. Just imagine what we can do to you, and you won't have a platform to speak up about it and expose them for doing exactly what they're doing.
How ironic that you now are the head of the intelligence community. You're the DNI. They never would have imagined that that would be the outcome.
I don't know that I did either.
No. You served for 8 years as a Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii. That was your ideology, I guess. So what happened? And before I ask you about your evolution, do you think that being a Democrat and coming from that kind of machine, it's much more of a machine, much more formidable, I think, than the Republican sort of chaos. Do you think that's given you an ability to do what maybe Republicans couldn't do? I'm just seeing how effective you've been as DNI in such a short period in being able to construct a narrative and stick to it and understand where the bodies are buried, and create, and figure out, not be naive, figure out what they were up to. Do you think that your Democrat background's helped you?
I will say certainly my experience over all of these years that I've been involved in public service in the political realm has informed me very well in the work that I'm doing now. I think it would be too simplistic to say that just being a Democrat in Congress would lead to this. Because I wasn't a typical Democrat in Congress either.
Yeah. But you were the deputy head of the DNC.
And I'll start there because to me, you mentioned, the ideology. I was certainly affiliated with the Democratic Party. I was a Democrat. I joined the Democratic Party back in my early 20s because I had to pick one.
Yeah.
And what I saw and was attracted to was really the values that I saw, Dr. Martin Luther King promoting, the values that President John F. Kennedy talked about, and the kind of leadership that he brought. I saw a party that fought for, the struggling working man and woman in America, those who were just trying to take care of their families and put food on the table and provide a better future for their kids. I saw a party that cared about, clean air and clean water for us to breathe and for us to live in and around. And that's what drew me to the Democratic Party, over 20 years ago. And you start to fast forward to see how the Democratic Party changed. And you go from then and you look fast forward to where we are now, where you have people talking about, this guy Mamdani in New York as the future of the Democratic Party, and he's a self-proclaimed socialist.
Yeah.
You look at AOC, same thing. And if only the Democratic Party of today had the intellectual honesty to really question themselves about what party would President John F. Kennedy most align with in today's world we live in.
Look at RFK Jr.
That's right.
And you.
That's right.
Two of, the brightest talents that have come out of the Democrat Party in terms of leadership. And
have been rejected.
And were rejected.
By the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And really seeing, again, the Democratic Party used to be the party that really championed free speech. That even if there was fierce, even if there was fierce disagreement, recognizing that you have the right to free speech just as much as I do, and seeing the value in the robust debate that is the public town square of America. This is America. This is what we were founded upon. And so you mentioned, I think the word you used was chaos in the Republican Party. Yeah. But, if we as Americans look at the founding of our country and we look at the Constitution and our Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, these documents that are the fabric and foundation that make us who we are, And then you look at the two political parties that we have today, and in the Democratic Party, and yes, I have experienced this in great depth, how the overarching message is comply or else.
Right.
Here's the narrative. Here's the talking points. Stick to the talking points or else you will face retaliation. You will face some kind of, public punishment or smearing or whatever the tool or mechanism is. And therefore directly limiting any kind of free speech or real true dissent, like actual dissent on the issues that matter, any real true robust debate. And then you look at the Republican Party and people can criticize this person or that person or this debate or argument or whatever. And yeah, it can be really messy sometimes. But when you look at our democratic republic and a country that was founded on the principle of freedom, true freedom and free speech, well, guess what? This is what you get. And in President Trump's administration here, as you talked about, both now Secretary of Health and Human Services, Bobby Kennedy, I'm here. There are others who are now a part of the team who or former Democrats or who, maybe voted for Barack Obama in a previous election, all coming together because in President Trump, we're seeing this unique and incredible coalition of Americans who are seeing beyond party lines and are attracted to common sense leadership, who are attracted to, in President Trump, somebody who is actually standing up for working men and women in this country. President Trump, who led the passage of, the One Big Beautiful Bill that says, no, if you're a waiter working in a restaurant and you're struggling to make ends meet, the government shouldn't be taxing you on your tips.
Right.
No tax on Social Security income. So very real practical decisions that our president makes. And I'm grateful to be in the room when some of these decisions are being made and some of these conversations are being had where he really just looks at, okay, what makes sense? What's in the best interest of the American people? What's in the best interest of strengthening our ability to live in a truly peaceful, prosperous, and free nation? It is so refreshing. And you look at his victory in 2024, an unprecedented historic win. And I was grateful to have both been at rallies with him, but really Bobby Kennedy and I went around the country together and had conversations with huge crowds of people and seeing the ideological diversity, the political diversity of folks in those crowds who were attracted by people who were having real conversations about things that matter to themselves, to their children, to their families. And what was when you first started doing that with Bobby Kennedy, what was your relationship with him? Did you ever to each other marvel at how two Democrats, he's from this storied Democrat family that, I don't think any family is more iconic in that party than the Kennedy family. And he had his, his own relatives attack him for it. Yeah.
Did you share
we didn't spend too much, we actually didn't really spend any time kind of marveling at the moment. I think both of us have been, or we were very mission focused.
Right.
Both of us came to our own decisions to endorse President Trump in the 2024 election.
Was that in part a sort of a hostility to Biden, or?
We had very clear reasons. There were obviously a lot of criticisms of President Biden and his administration. I wrote a whole book about it. About why I left the Democratic Party and was urging others to do the same. But I think for both Bobby and myself, there were very positive reasons and motivations for why we decided to endorse President Trump and to actually spend months on the road going out and sharing with other people our own personal experiences and why we felt so strongly to leave our families and our homes behind and spend that time on the road because we knew he was the best president for our nation at this moment. And look, it's been 6 months and the president is delivering on his promises.
And could you see yourself going back to the Democratic Party? A country with only one healthy party is not going to do very well.
Yeah.
So could you see yourself or a group of people trying to restore the Democratic Party, trying to resuscitate it? Is that possible?
The Democratic Party has become more and more unrecognizable to me now. Certainly when I left the Democratic Party, I tried for a long time to bring about change within the Democratic Party, to bring it back to the party of JFK. And time again, what I faced was quite extreme resistance from within the Democratic Party. I remember as I was running for president in 2020, at I think it was one of the debates that we had, I talked about bringing the Democratic Party, wanting to revive kind of a new Democratic Party that would bring it back to our roots of fighting for the people, of fighting for free speech. And I was ridiculed. I was ridiculed at that Democratic event for having the audacity to say such things. And then that was, 5 years ago. Now you look at where we are today. The Democratic Party has rapidly become far more
and why
extreme.
Why? What happened? What went wrong?
You can point to a lot of different moments, but really fundamentally, the Democratic Party is not rooted in any true, is not rooted in the Constitution.